Hey everyone, it's Triple Mango Thread or Ashley, and today we're going over the cards to add and remove from Upgrades Unleashed, so let's jump right into it. So our commander is Chishiro, the Shattered Blade. For 2 red green, we get a 4/4 Snake Samurai. Whenever an aura or equipment enters the battlefield under your control, create a 2/2 red spirit creature token with Menace. At the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on each modified creature you control. So we will definitely be leaning into the aura and equipment side of this deck, and also finding ways to draw cards and giving those +1/+1 creatures some way to get the damage through. Starting with the cards I would add, we have Duskshell Crawler. For 1 and a green, it's a 0/3 insect. When it enters the battlefield, we get to put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has Trample, which is very likely because our commander promotes that modified creatures that have auras, equipment, or counters on them are going to get an additional counter at our end step. The next card we're talking about is Highland Forest. Now it does enter the battlefield tapped, but I like it because in the subtext it says that it's a mountain forest. This is helpful because if we ever upgrade the deck, or if our opponents have cards that can let us search for specific cards that are not basic lands that say mountain or forest, we can grab something like this. Next, we're talking about Kenris Transformation. I like this card because not only is it an aura, but it is also taking care of creatures that our opponents may have that are a little bit more difficult to interact with. For example, if we target their commander with this, it's going to be a lot harder for them to put it back into their command zone. So unless they remove this enchantment or their commander dies, gets exiled, whatever, their commander is just stuck on their battlefield with this. And we also get to draw a card with it, and make a 2/2 with our commander. Next, we're talking about Return of the Wild Speaker. This is a great way to draw cards, or it's a great way to buff all of our creatures to deal a lot of damage. We can draw cards equal to the greatest power among non-human creatures we control, or non-human creatures you control get +3/+3 until end of turn. This is great, especially because we're going to have creatures that are either spirits, snakes, anything non-human. Next, we're talking about probably one of the weirdest and favorite cards I'm adding to this deck is Tago Goblin Weaponsmith. So pretty much it says you now have landfall, and whenever a land enters the battlefield, you create a colorless equipment artifact token named Rock. And what's nice is that this is going to trigger our commander, so we get a 2/2 out of this, and we can also equip this to something, then it is now modified. So it's going to get a +1/+1 counter from our commander at the end step. We can also pay 1 to sack it and deal 2 damage to any target. It's an odd card, but I think it works really well in the deck. The last card I want to mention is Wild Beastmaster. This is another great way to start dealing a huge amount of damage with all the creatures we're going to have. When it attacks, each other creature you control gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is its power. And when we start equipping our equipment or auras to this, it's going to get modified, it's going to get a lot of +1/+1 counters. It's easy to deal a bunch of damage with this one. Now let's talk about the cards I'm going to be removing from the deck. First, we're talking about Kaima the Fractured Calm. For 2 red and green, this cares about giving our opponents auras and then they become goated. This doesn't fit for the deck in my opinion, but I think if it was a commander by itself, you can definitely build a deck around this effect. Next, we're talking about Agitator Ant for 2 and a red. At the beginning of your end step, each player may put 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature they control. Goad each creature this way that had counters put on them this way. It's likely that our opponents will not take the +2/+2 counters, and then if we do it, we still have to attack with it. So I didn't think this was a great card for the deck. Next, I want to remove Ox of Aganos. When it enters the battlefield, we have to discard our hand, then draw 3. It has escape for 2 red, exile 8 other cards in your graveyard. Ox of Aganos escapes with a +1/+1 counter on it. I really don't think this fits the deck, and if it does, I'm missing something. So if I'm missing something, please comment down below. Next, we're removing Tawashi Guidebot. I thought this was a neat one, but I did remove it because we have to have modified creatures in order to tap this to draw 1 card. Like, it promotes what we want to do, but it's a little slow in my opinion, and if we lose all of our creatures, we have to pay 4 mana to draw a card. Not the best. Next, we're talking about Mossfire Valley. So if you didn't know, the deck accidentally comes with 2 Mossfire Valleys, which is not going to make this deck a legal commander deck out of the box. Kind of odd, but we're going to be replacing this with Highland Forest from the cards that we're adding. Last card I want to mention is Collision of Realms. For 6 and a red, this is a sorcery. Each player shuffles all the creatures they own into their library. Each player who shuffled a non-token creature into their library this way reveals from the top of their library until they reveal a creature card, then puts that card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of their library in a random order. I like this, but I do not think it fits in the deck, especially because we're building up all these creatures. We're going to lose all the counters that we just had on them. We're going to lose all the auras that were on them. We do get to keep the equipment, but we have to pay to re-equip those. And for 7 mana, it just seems like a lot for this. So I don't think this fits in the deck. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like the cards I added or you didn't like them, let me know in the comments down below, and thank you to the patrons who help support this show. You can also become a patron and receive rewards each month, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.